Hello, welcome to another CollectionsIndex Web Edition tutorial, and today we're looking at folders. Folders are a tool that you can find associated with all different record types in your system, and they're a useful way of grouping together certain records to be able to access quickly later on. So I'm looking at archives in my example today, but do bear in mind this works for all different types of records, including other collections modules like objects and books. So when you're looking at a search result in Collections Index, you will see this folder option here at the top. And this drop-down list shows all folders that you have access to. So most systems will have an Untitled folder as a default, and you can add and create new folders into this list to use and help manage your collections. Note when we're looking at this list, the little numbers next to the folder name, and that shows how many records are in that folder. So shortlist has 4, whilst untitled folder has no records in it at the moment. And from this folder list, we can see what folders are available for us to look at. And if we click at a folder from this list, it will simply set that as our active folder. And we'll find out what that does in a few minutes' time. But while you're looking at a folder, while it's set as your active folder, we can click on the cog here, and if we click Retrieve Folder, it will show us the contents of our folder. So now we're looking at the 4 archive records associated with our short list folder. So it's very easy to retrieve these folders once you've got them set up. Creating new folders is also a very quick and very simple process. If we again click on the cog and click on New Folder, we can then simply type in the name of our folder. I'm going to call this one Research as an example. Press OK. And now if I open down this list, you can see my research folder appears, although at this point we've got no records inside it. And I'll show you how to add records to your folder in a few moments' time. There is another way to create folders and another way to access them, and that's over here in the side menu. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see in the Manage section of your navigation menu down at the bottom, there is a Folders option. And if we click on that, it will take us to an area where we can manage our folders. You can see here on the left, we have a list of the folders in our system, and we can click on different folders just to get a preview of their contents and to manage them. So note that while I'm looking at a folder, I can edit its information, I can delete it, and I can also choose to make a folder public. So by default, folders are personal to you and only your account will be able to see them, but you can make folders available to all of your users if you want to. The other key thing we can do in this area is to create new folders. So we can click on New Top Level Folder, and this will allow us to create a new folder in the same way as before. And note a new folder appears here. What we can also do is create folders in a more hierarchical way. So maybe we want this to be a general exhibition branch with individual folders inside for different exhibitions. So if I right click on this, new folder, now I'm creating a child one, and I could say this is exhibition A, and then just right click on the parent again, exhibition B, whoops, make sure my caps lock is behaving itself, and so on and so forth. So you can, in this folders management area, create more of a hierarchy in your folders if you want to. So that's the other way you can create new folders, as well as doing that in the search results. So now let's look at how you can add items into your folders. So how do we add records to our folders? Well, I've jumped over to image records now, just to demonstrate the fact that folders do work with different types of record. And I'm looking at a search result. So let's create a new folder, and I'll show you how to add records into your folders. So again, let's create a folder. We'll click on the cog and click New Folder. Call this one Boats. And now you can see Boats is now my active folder, but it has that 0 next to it, which means we don't have any records in our folder. So looking through our search results, you'll notice in that controls column at the end, there is a small folder icon. And if you hover over it, we can see that this button will add the record to our current active folder. So again, if I click on there, click there, and click there, we've added 3 objects to our folder, 3 images to our folder. And if I look at boats now, we can see we have the number 3. So it's counting as we go. And again, if I've changed my mind or one of those has done an error, I can click on the button again and it will remove the object, the record from my folder. So we can see we now have 2 image records in our boats folder. However, maybe you've got lots of records you want to add, and adding them in this way one at a time is going to be a bit slow. Well, you can also add records into a folder en masse. So let's do a search result. Let's get a search for boats. Let's just search for the word boats. Okay, we'll try boat instead. And there we go. We have 3 images with the word boat associated with them in some way. So now what we're going to do is go down to the bottom here, and we can see that one of our options is add all records to current folder, and then the name of our folder, boats. So if I click on that, and it's added these 3 search results into our folder, and you can see the total has now jumped up to 5. So they're the 2 main ways to add things to your folders, either individually using these folder icons or using the add all records option once you've generated a search result. Now let's have a quick look at more detail on how you can manage your folders once they have contents. So returning to our folders management page, once we've added items to our folder, there's a few more items that appear here that I want to run through. So note that we are now looking at the boats folder we made earlier, and we can see previews of the 5 images we associated and put into that folder. And of course we can move and look at other folders here too if we want to. So you can see there's one photo that I've added to Untitled folder. And if I click back on boats, I see that preview again. I can also change active folder tree to see folders for other types of records. So if I click on collections, I'll see some of those folders I made as examples for archives earlier in this video. But let's keep looking at our asset folder for now. So we've got the same options we had before. We can edit information about our folder. So I could rename the folder or even give it some extra description about what it's for. I can delete this folder and I can make it public so all users can access it. Note that the contents of my folder seems to be locked. I can't click on these, but if I set active record type to the type of record I added to this folder, so in this case images, that will unlock them. And now note that I can click on items here in the folder and actually get some additional options up here at the top. So first of all, if I've selected items, and I can hold down Control and select multiple, at any point clear selection will just clear what I have selected. I can also just choose to view the objects that I have highlighted. So view just these 2 objects here. I can remove all items or I can just remove what I've selected. So if I click on this now, you will see remove these 2 images from the folder. So the folder management area is really a very effective way of seeing what's in your folder and making some decisions around removing what you might not need and that sort of thing. I've now returned to look at my image records because one last thing I want to mention about folders is you can use them as one of your criteria for an advanced search. So if I open up advanced search here, you can see that one of your options to search is folder. If I click on folder, we can choose is or is not. And then we can see a list of available folders for our record type. So we can see our boats folder. And so we can do things like folder is not boats. And this will bring back all of our image records apart from those in that folder. So you can do some quite clever things with folders to help rule certain groups of objects in or out of your searches, for example, in quite a bespoke way. And of course, the other thing you can do is add extra lines to these searches to maybe search within a folder in more detail. So if we say our folder is boats, and add a new line to this folder. And maybe we want to see the contents of this, but asset type should be JPEG. So we only want to see JPEG images in this particular folder. Remember, we had 3 records in our folder, but if we press search now, you can see we've only got 1 result. So it turns out there's only 1 JPEG in our folder of 3. So that's the last thing I wanted to mention about folders on this video. They're very simple to set up, very simple to retrieve, and there's some really clever and useful things you can do around using folders in your advanced searches. Join us for our next video where we'll be looking at dynamic folders.